This episode of Vic's Basement is brought to you by EB Games. Support us by buying your video games at EB Games. Welcome to my basement, everybody. 9 o'clock in the morning on Mondays. Let's go live with something. This was your idea, my friend.
Be quiet. Jesus, my head hurts so bad right now.
I think it's because we couldn't agree to see these shows together and do them on a Sunday night because it would be...
Who did you float that idea?
No, but I mean, that's the ideal, is do them right after the show is aired.
Why don't we all just live together? You and me, Marcy, Ruby, Marissa, Enzo, Blake, Aaron.
Let's just get a big house and we'll all live together and watch TV together.
It sounds kind of creepy.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that.
All right. So we watched maybe the penultimate, the biggest episode.
Yeah, you never know when it's going to come every season. You know, there's going to be one big one. They're going to spend a lot of money. There's going to be huge production costs. And this season it came in episode 8.
Yep.
And
hey, I just want to give another shout out though to Ben Hankey, who called Hard Home. Right, and he called it. Well, he just said that the big, because we were just all down on it last episode of this show, talking about how this season has been pretty slow, and maybe they're not going to sort of lift it all. And Ben said, "Well, Hard Home is coming. It's still coming. It could be really amazing. They spent all of this budget."
What does Hard Home mean?
Well, that's the name of the village that gets.
Oh, okay. That's the name of the episode. I know. I didn't know that was the name of that was the name of the village. Okay.
Yeah, I believe so. Okay. You don't mean the names in Game of Thrones.
Yeah, who did you just call? We were trying to remember the names before we started shooting here, and I started my acting.
Clearly, the elder that has to go and talk to Cersei while she's in prison is named Quirrell.
And would you call him Quigley?
No, it's Qyburn. But you see, I mean, come on. I do my best to try to get in the vicinity of these names, but the names are tough in this show. It never. And you know what I was thinking is that Marvel has created this metaverse, this cinematic universe that's sort of all threaded and everything. That's what this show is. It feels like there's like 90 shows happening at the same time in this thing. And I think that may have been one of the issues with this season so far, is that they're so disconnected. And so, the action elements, the things that are being led up to are so far away from each other that it's felt a little like, what's happening? Like there's a lot of minutia and cool things going on with the conversations, but it hasn't been as fulfilling, I find, as what we saw in this episode.
You smell so good today.
Thanks, buddy.
Are you wearing a cologne?
No, that's just that's my musk.
Is that English leather?
Yeah. No, it's just from this area. It's just wafting.
Don't make any motions towards that area. This is a family program. Listen, this whole season, this is a funny season because I think they decided at the outset that they were going to leave some storylines and some characters behind for this season, because I think they knew they had a packed season narratively, and I think they also realized, and
they spent all their money on this show, on this episode.
I'm still trying to make a point.
Yeah.
And you're right, they did. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But my brother and his wife, who live on the East Coast, they started to try to watch the first season, and he's just like, I don't know what's going on. They got kids, they got 2 girls, and this is a lot of TV. Like it's a big show with lots of characters, lots of storylines, lots of names to remember, like Qyburn or Quigley or whatever we're calling him today.
Yep.
And so this season, I think the producers decided to pare it back a little bit. We haven't seen any Hodor. We haven't, seen any Bran, Stark, and even some storylines like Brienne of Tarth and Podrick have fallen by the wayside at this point. Yeah. Everyone needed to get out of the way for what happened last night, which is probably the biggest spectacle I think the show's had in its entirety. I mean, there was a huge fight at the end of season 4 at Castle Black.
Right, with the black water and all that stuff?
No, that was season 2.
Okay, I can't move.
You're doing good, though. You're doing good.
No, with the big, the ship
No, I'm talking
fight?
about, there was a snow fight when the wildlings, I don't know who it was. Yeah, it was the wildlings. They come to Castle Black and they have a big...
That was 4? Oh, yeah, okay, yes.
That was last year, and it was huge. And the giants, I remember the giants were huge. They had a big fight. We never actually saw the fight, and that's been one of the tricks of the show, is to just show the aftermath of a fight rather than showing the fight itself. But now...
We saw
the fight. And, I remember that battle in the bay in which Tyrion stepped up. Remember, he got injured.
And that was also, left a lot to your imagination. But
it did.
This sequence...
But I always felt kind of embarrassed for that battle because it was so small scale. And the scope of it was so small and everything was so close. And especially in the wake of the Lord of the Rings movies, you just felt like, well, they just don't have the budget to make these big battles.
But it feels like they've been thrown a little bit into the vault, over the seasons to be able to prepare for this amazing sequence. I think for television
is obviously invested in Game of Thrones at this point. I mean, they're sort of going their own way. I don't know how much it has in common or not in common with George's book, but they're stepping away a little bit more of George's book. So forgive us, neither of us have read the books. I know Ben Silverman has. Maybe we'll have him on the show one day.
And he would know all the names.
He would know all Qyburn and Quigley and everybody.
Yeah, just patch him in.
Yeah.
Who's this character?
So let's start with the small stuff before we get to the bigger stuff. And we'll talk about the action scene, and that'll be most of the show today. But
well, can I just say about this episode that this is the one, if you're trying to convince people to watch the show, you can air this out of context and show this episode, and people will become fans of the show.
I disagree.
And
I'll tell you why later. I'm not going to do it now.
Okay.
Do you got any voices you want to do today?
No, I didn't work on any of the voices. Maybe the big giant.
Former.
Is that pretty? Is that good?
It's terrible.
I learned his name, Tormund. It's not Redbeard.
That was Tormund. Yeah, it's not Redbeard the Elder.
I thought. No. Okay. All right. So yes, the small stuff.
With the small stuff. Let's start with Daenerys and Tyrion.
There's really nothing small in this episode. That's what's so cool about it. Like, there's some really epic things. We've got the first real conversation.
Let's talk about before the special effects come in. I guess is a different way to put it.
No, but they got Tyrion and Daenerys talking for the first time in a real way.
Right.
Right.
And there's no special effects there.
Yeah, but it's huge, sort of Empress building kind of conversation.
And I think last week after the show, I felt kind of disappointed. And here's my gift, and Jorah brought him.
It was all too fast.
It just felt too. I didn't really get it. And then this time, it felt like the writing was on point. The acting was very good. I felt the tension between the two of them, and I also felt the admiration and respect between the two of them. And that was satisfying.
Though. It was too quickly again because they don't really know each. I mean, maybe Tyrion has had more time to kind of soak in how he fits.
They only have 10 episodes.
I know, but
they got to go fast forward.
It feels like Daenerys doesn't give her trust quickly anymore. She learned, right?
She's probably that way in a relationship too.
Right, exactly. Well, this is a new relationship, and she has to kind of decipher.
I meant romance.
Yeah, I know what you meant. And she has to kind of decipher the trickery that Tyrion always lays on whoever he's talking
I feel like he's being honest, though.
Yeah, but,
And I feel like generally he has to take care of himself. He's little.
Yeah.
So he's got to make sure he's guarded. But he has good ideas, and I think he has good intentions generally.
Clearly he survived because of his smarts,
And I feel good about their relationship. I feel like something interesting could happen. I feel like something kind of powerful could happen. And I like that they're so honest with each other. I don't feel like there's any deception yet. But with Tyrion, there's always a little bit of deception.
I kind of wish that whole slaver thing didn't happen in this season.
What slaver thing?
Well, where they become slaves and they go to the fighting pit and they just happen to meet Daenerys that first time. I wish that...
there's been lots of bad things.
I think that, it would have been great for the writers to just get that duo to Meereen to meet with Daenerys, That would have been awesome if they just got past the stone guys and then they made it.
It's all part of a bigger recipe, and they always add little parts of the recipe which you could or could not include.
But it would have given them a couple of episodes to kind of go back and forth and play this cat and mouse kind of thing with the dialogue, because it's really satisfying. But now we've leapt into that, and she's got to deal with, I always forget, Jorah?
Jorah.
Yeah, she's got to banish Jorah again, and we got to...
let's go over this. Jorah?
Yes.
Tormund.
Jorah Tormund.
Jorah and Tormund. Those are two characters.
Yes, they're different characters.
And you know the difference between them.
I do. One has a beard.
That's good.
Yes. But she has to banish Jorah again. We got to see all of that stuff.
Yeah, he gets walked outside of the city,
Yeah.
and you almost forget about that in the wake of seeing everything else that happens later in the episode.
Yeah.
But it is a pretty big moment, and I do kind of feel bad for him because I do feel like he too, and I don't know, I'm always looking for the people on the show who have good intentions.
Sure.
They mean well for the kingdom, they mean well for the world, they mean well for each other.
Right.
And I feel like Jorah's one of those guys. He really believes in Daenerys. I like that Tyrion said he may even be in love with you.
Yeah.
And I like that was just stated outright, because of course I've been thinking that since the beginning.
Yeah.
And finally it got articulated, and of course Tyrion's the one who articulates all the difficult things.
Yeah, that was all good. I guess now Jorah's got to go back to the slaver thing to try to battle his way back to say one last thing.
I don't want to see him fight anymore.
But
I don't care.
I know, it just feels so superfluous. It feels like it was fascinating for them
to... It's like a personal redemption. He's got that disease now.
I know.
He keeps looking, like this is the third or fourth time he's looked at it, and it's the same shot every time.
I know.
It's him like lifting his Oh, there it is. It's got the scale.
It's kind of like he's looking at an Apple Watch. It's a little annoying. It's a little.
One day, I wonder if we will have watches that are embedded in our skin. But that's a topic for another time.
Yeah, that'll be our
another
talk
scene.
next season.
Another scene that I forget completely, and I really have to work hard with my brain to remember it, is the scene that takes place in the north, up in.
Yes, with Samwell. Not Samwise.
Sam and Ginny.
Yeah. Oh, come on. You know her name.
I don't remember her name.
Because I don't. You know I don't.
Okay, I don't know either. But
right,
there's that
Sam
scene.
and his lady.
Sam and the lady.
And then the kid coming.
We really need an intern. And so that was interesting. I forgot it already.
Yeah.
But then there was also that scene that takes place between Roose Bolton and Ramsay, and they're all together in a small council kind of meeting.
You can feel the world is closing in on
and they're talking about Stannis, right?
Yes.
And Stannis being out in the cold, and then Ramsay says something that apparently is a clue to what's going to happen next. He says, "All I need is 20 men," and that's where they leave it. They just drop it right there, and.
The world is going to come at Ramsay in some pretty hard ways because Sansa still has that thing that she stole as well, and I think she's going to stab him, or he's going to die magnificently in this season.
I don't know.
I think he is.
One of the two of them will die for sure. And Reek, who knows what's going to happen to Reek? I don't want any guesses.
I would love the Red Witch?
She wasn't there last night.
I know, but I would love for her to have some magical powers and rip him apart. That would be amazing.
Okay, that's
Can we make that happen?
You put it in your fan fiction for the week. Vic's Game of Thrones fan fiction. The other thing last night was there was a nice scene between Stanza and Reek.
You called her Stanza. That's
good. And then
Reek
reveals that he never actually killed her brothers, which she's thought about for the entire season, or for the entire duration of the show.
So she knows now that Jon Snow is still alive. Yeah. Maybe for not very much longer, and she knows now that her other brothers are alive. So she feels like some of the family is out there.
Yeah, and I do feel like they're building to a thing. Something's going to happen now. Reek has the truth.
Yeah.
Stanza has the truth, and they're gonna wreak some sort of vengeance for sure on the Boltons, and we'll see what happens to. Roose and to Roose is Ramsay's dad. Yeah. Anyway, that's enough of that shit.
Do you feel empathy towards Reek?
I just feel kind of ambivalent about Reek. I mean, he was so rotten for so long, and I feel him wanting to get back into the good graces of people who he cares about. And it's been interesting to discover that he still has feelings and still does care. I mean, you can tell he cares about Stanza.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't really care about his. I mean, I feel like I don't want to talk about what might happen, but I do like seeing the transformation. He's been through so many transformations. He was a nobody
but he's always been a weasel, though. He was always a weasel.
But I feel like he's a good man now, especially one with no penis. Do you think all men would be better with no penises?
No. Let's never make that happen. That sounds terrible.
I like having mine.
No, and Theon, I mean, he says that he deserved everything that he got, which is maybe part of the road to redemption, but no, he killed some innocent farm kids, so he hasn't quite gotten everything that he deserves yet.
All right, well, listen, this is the Westeros, this is the Game of Thrones, this is the fictional world. I know people do terrible things. Terrible things are much more commonplace.
I'm sick of his little whiny BS, though. He's such
Even
a little...
now?
Yeah, he really bothers me. And, Sansa's the one that has also virtue and also, wants to... she was really... Her innocence was really just ripped in front of her eyes, watching her family all get destroyed like that, and then being taken by that crazy brat of a kid.
Oh, no.
And then Baelish, so everything has been sort of dictated to her and for her, and now she's getting raped repeatedly by this scumbag, and I just feel like, she's just going to become this fierce, human being because of all these awful things that keep happening to her.
I mean, one of the strange things about last night's episode in the wake of the whole season so far is, there was certainly a strong female character later in the episode, in the final third. Yeah. But it wasn't really so much about the celebration of women and their power last night. I mean, we still see Stanza, who is, she still has a boot on her neck and she's got to get it off. Yeah. But last night was really kind of more about the men. And even in Samwell's small scene with fucking Ginny, I don't know what her name is.
Sounds like Ginny. And the kid who is really diametrically opposed to this idea of any kind of partnership or pairing with the wildlings because they killed his family. It was kind of cool and kind of emotional that they went to such dark places between the wildlings and the crows. You know, like you could really feel. There's a revelation there. Gilly, yes, that's right. They were starting to kind of figure out together that they've both been through way too much, and it's kind of stupid. And obviously that becomes very true when they have to fight all of these zombies at the end of the thing.
And now looking at Sam, he's had sex.
Yeah.
And who knows what he's capable of now? Like a sex
could really
more
calm, right?
I remember I worked in a restaurant as a kid, and there was a kid who I had sex with. I wasn't that young. I mean, maybe 17 or 18. And there was one kid who hadn't had sex. And then when he had sex, he was transformed. It does. It can be transformative, especially.
It should be.
It should. Yeah, it
right?
should be. Or else you're not doing it right.
Yeah, it should be transformative for sure. And Sam is going to. He's becoming a man for sure, and he's trying to comfort the little kid.
He is, and he's trying. He's probably reading The Joy of Sex, so he can learn how to pleasure Gilly and some new, maybe birdsong at morning.
Next week it'll all be about the tantra.
But listen, let's go to King's Landing and let's check in with Cersei. There's a character in there, and I saw her last week, and I saw her again last night. It's this nun who visits her, and I've made a note of this. I call her that nun, the Grey Nightmare, because that nun looks like a man to me for some reason. I don't know why. Every time I see it, the
sexuality of the human being is kind of stripped away under all of this.
Yeah, maybe that's just
this clothing. It's just a face, this very dour face that's sticking out and torturing Cersei. Like literally saying "confess, confess," smacking her and throwing water on the. And
it's like Catholic school.
Kind of, yeah, right. Again, though, this woman is not getting enough of what she deserves, and it's great. It's awful to feel the torment of another person and to see all of that, but this woman is barbaric.
This is the first time we've seen Cersei not in her regular majestic clothing.
Yeah.
We saw her in sackcloth last night. That's burlap for the people out there who are lay people. You can make your own sackcloth bag.
Next week?
Just cut arms.
We'll wear burlap.
Just cut arms for here and holes down here for the legs, and you can wear burlap too. But how did you feel during the scenes with Cersei? I think we went to her cell maybe twice. Mm-hmm. And who visited her? Your friend Quigley?
I thought it was Quirrell, but it's but it's Qyburn, the elder.
Qyburn, yeah.
Yes, and
the old weird Meister, and the super Meister, and the super Meister.
Job though. He didn't have tremendous screen time, but he had to project.
He's a very good actor. He
had to project all kinds of suggestion. Like the minute that Cersei is confronted with the charges against her, she's like, "I'm innocent," and she says, "Of course you, Grace." And I just thought that was really a fantastic, quick to the draw, kind of like placating this crazy person who he knows is wrong and absolutely deserves this stuff, and then suggests that she should just confess at the end of all of this. It was riveting. It was really, really good stuff.
It's hard to know. It's hard to know what's real because all we get from that perspective at King's Landing is Cersei's perspective. That's all we know. So when people tell her something, your son's not doing this or he is doing this, you don't know what's true and what's not. It's hard to tell.
Yeah.
It all is just filtered through these lenses.
Right.
And everything's
just as easily have boarded him up and have him sort of in
for
prison.
Sure.
Right.
Like he might be dead. Like who knows? We'll find out. We only have 2 episodes left at this point. So we'll leave King's Landing behind.
Yeah, well, she begs Qyburn to get her son to come and visit her, who he has not visited her, which was kind of a shocking revelation.
Yes.
And he's sitting there totally, incapable of helping anybody out in this situation.
Yeah, he hasn't done anything ever since he's become king, and before that certainly he didn't do anything.
Yeah.
He just always was doing whatever Marjorie wanted or whatever Cersei wanted. No Marjorie last night. No Lady Olenna. No
Lululemon
Great
Lannister.
Sparrow. No Lululemon. No Jaime. No Bran.
Yeah.
So we left lots of people by the wayside.
In order to make room.
Very large amount of room. I couldn't believe how much of this show. This took up a lot of real estate.
It was fantastic. It was 15 minutes of high-pressure filmmaking, you know? I mean, the thing that I thought while I watched this is, man, I wish that they had the budget or the wherewithal to bring in a director like George Miller to just go to town with the pacing and the cinematography. Because sometimes some of these shots, you kind of lose some of the action to bits and pieces of the screen. And I had just watched this thing about how Miller framed Mad Max to be everything center frame, so that your eyes are never looking for where the next supercut is going to be, or the next jump cut is going to be. You're always sort of following all of the sort of chaos in that movie in a very clean way, and that wasn't exactly true with the sequence here. There's a lot of saturated blacks and a lot of darker areas, and there's a lot of minutia. I watched the scene twice to kind of get a feel for camera placement. Well, it was really well done. It just wasn't Mad Max. It wasn't the sort of the zenith of sort of action filmmaking. But it was for this series, it was staggering. And my favorite shot is when they have to run to the boat. They're totally freaking out because they're just being overrun, and everybody's running to camera, and behind them is the giant, and it just looks so awesome. You can tell there's a lot of CG and a lot of effects and stuff in there, but it was just a really thrilling sequence. The camera's tracking and moving super fast as everybody's running into frame, and that giant is just huffing and puffing behind him. Incredible stuff.
Listen, I gotta tell you something. You're not gonna like this. You know what I'm gonna say.
You report.
I hated this. I hated it. This is not the strength of this TV show. It's never what I've liked about the TV show. They've tried to do bigger battles. They've never achieved kind of Peter Jacksonian kind of success with these battles. I felt like they did a poor job describing the layout of, what's it called, Home?
Hard Home.
Describing the layout of it. I wasn't sure where the fence was and who was on the outside and who was on the inside. And the fact that I was trying to puzzle this out, it just made me think it was poorly laid out. The whole thing was. It was poorly shot. There were some nice moments in there, but I feel like the White Walkers...
Yeah, you're right. They didn't have enough tracking shots over the village until the very end, until you see...
I didn't know who was on what side of the wall, and who was on the outside and who was on the inside.
Maybe that was an intentional choice. Maybe they wanted us to just be sort of swept up in this madness.
This feels lazy.
It happens so fast, though. I mean, it's 15 minutes of showtime, which feels indulgent and long, but, literally... They show up, they have a couple of, they beat the crap out of the Lord of Bones, which was hilarious. The way that it just it wasn't
Lord
hilarious.
Of Bones?
Yeah, the guy with the big mask he's like, no, we want to kill him.
See, that's why I watched the show. I love that shit. When Tormund chops him.
It's like, okay, there's no reasoning.
Not only does he hit him once, he hits him like 4 or 5 times. I love that. Like, that guy's gone, and now Tormund's back in charge again. I love that happened so quickly.
Okay, we need to talk.
The writing is so good.
Yeah.
But then when we go to the special effects stuff, the special effects don't feel special enough for a show that I feel like I'm just cheering on the whole way. No, but listen, and also I'll tell you, the White Walkers have been diminished for me. When I think about them as mythological creatures from the first episode, and they would do things that didn't really make sense, that were just awful, and they were so fast, and you just kept thinking like, are these things supernatural? How can they do this? How can they make a whole thing out of horse heads? Like how? And now they're just guys that are white who ride horses and have blue eyes. Like who? It makes me care less about them.
Ice thorns.
Yeah, it makes me fear them less.
Well,
and I think that's a mistake.
Always happens when you have to show the creature, whether it's a horror movie or Jaws or whatever.
Let's not fight the White Walkers.
It's a transcendent moment. It's like, here is Jon Snow, who is on the rise within Westeros.
They're brought down to the level of men. And before that, they were something that was just unstoppable. And Winter is Coming had this eerie kind of like subtext to it.
Well,
and now it doesn't.
Should this have been the end of the show then? It's like, okay, everybody's dead.
Well, I mean,
and then these guys they're unstoppable.
No, but I think they're unstoppable. Yeah, I think that's what it is. And I think they have to have some sort of creative way. I mean, I'm not writing George's book and I'm not writing an HBO show.
Well, there's got to be some hope for the humanity that's been projected.
But the playing field has been leveled, and before the White Walkers were up here. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. They're just zombies. Like fuck, man. I've been watching zombie movies for a long time.
And that's part of the issue.
Even Jon Snow last night. Yeah. It makes that one zombie turn into icicles. I guess he hits him,
and that's the only glimmer of hope. And it was.
And what sword did he have that was so powerful?
I think that was Ned Stark's sword. I think it was. I mean, I don't know, but
I don't know either. I'm like,
super
I guess
important sword. They showed the hilt. They showed the
dragon glass and that sword.
Yeah, they lost the dragon glass in the fire, and that was pretty amazing because they had put all their hope in being able to stab these guys with that thing.
I've just seen too many things with zombies getting shot in the eyes. Too many things breaking through, arms getting chopped off. Like I'd seen these things a million times before.
We hadn't seen zombies fight like that though since Clash of the Titans, since a Ray Harryhausen type of thing.
The thing is, it's like I like the individual battles.
Yeah.
Remember last season with Oberon and the Mountain?
Yeah, that was
like
amazing.
That's great. Like that's why I watch this shit, not to see like let's really struggle to CG this and get this to work and coordinate this with the production schedule.
I think they did a pretty remarkable job with all the visual effects, but yes, this is now another show fighting the zombie fatigue. Because it does start to feel like, oh my God, does everything have to have zombies?
And these zombies felt special, and then last night they just felt a lot less special.
I don't know. I thought they were pretty cool. I love their blue eyes, and I love that sequence at the end where they, after everybody has been slaughtered, he just says, "Okay, now rise," and we're going to go, and there's nothing stopping.
This is a cloud that has been looming over this world for 5 seasons now.
Right.
And that cloud is not quite as dense anymore.
Please tell me how you would have made that.
I don't have any answer. Like, that's not my job. My job is to be critical of stuff. And I felt like, Jesus, this isn't sitting right with me. And I'm trying to understand why.
In terms of, the ability of the show to present these larger-than-life fantasy pieces, I think they did a tremendous job with this episode. I mean, they've tried with other things. I think this is probably the closest to theater quality stuff that they've come with in the whole series.
We've been doing this for 10 years.
Yes.
Agreeing to disagree, and I love you.
Okay.
I do. I do love you.
So
I'm glad you had fun.
Is it the fantasy stuff that you just don't want to see it? You'd rather imagine it?
I don't want these big battles. That's never where the strength of the show is. It's just always like it's all these people just doing everything they can to get this big battle out the door so it looks halfway decent. It's not what the show does best, and it's certainly not. I don't sit around. I was exhausted during this battle, and I was disappointed in the show.
Yeah.
Like I feel like if anything, this took me even further away from rooting for this season.
No, I thought it was really great, and it also put Snow in the heroic category, and I mean, we don't know how far this arc is going to go. We have no idea. We haven't read the books. I don't know if this is like he makes it to the next episode.
Even be part of the books anymore.
And he might be dead, right? But he now feels like he's on the Daenerys trajectory. Now I'm starting to think maybe these two are going to meet, and they're going to have Tyrion as their advisor, and they're going to make a new, peaceful, bountiful, beautiful Westeros.
The other thing I want to say
has cleared the White Walkers out.
He is absolutely a very attractive man.
They keep saying he's the prettiest.
And they said it so many times last night. Just like, all right, everybody's attracted to him. Everybody, he's attracted. He's prettier than my 2 daughters, but I don't trust him.
I thought he handled himself really well in the battle sequences, and I was really riveted by that, especially when the walker smacks him and he falls down right on his back, and he's just like, ooh, and he's coughing up blood and all kinds of things. Sorry, I hit my mic. I thought all that stuff was really cool. And I thought it was invigorating for him to, get the comeuppance and take out the Walker with the sword. And the look of shock on the White Walker and Jon Snow at that moment was incredible. I thought all of that stuff was great. There was great, quieter moments within the context of this massive, messy battle, for sure. And the messiness of the battle was a little disoriented, and you can kind of see where the lines of the CG are kind of fudged in and blurred in and stuff. But there's lots of great details, and I thought the giant running around, stepping on characters and taking them off and ripping them apart, I thought all of that stuff was incredible. And him wading out into the boats at the end of the sequence, I thought it was amazing.
I haven't listened to you in about 5 minutes.
It's kind of like the battle at the end of the show.
All I heard was... I'm just kidding, buddy. I'm glad you had fun.
I want to hear, though, from people that watched the show yesterday. Tell us what you thought of episode 8. I was very entertained.
You know what I've decided? Mm-hmm. I don't want to do this show anymore. I want to go to Maester School.
You want to become a super Maester?
I want to become a PH Maester. I want to get my PhD in Maesterology.
Well, we have to do the show. We have 2 more episodes to go through.
I hope there's more big battles.
Well, usually I don't think
like
so. I don't think there can be another big battle. I think they spent all their money on this.
They shot their load on this for sure, and so the rest of it's going to be exactly what I love: small council meetings.
Well, we're going to find out what happens to Jaime,
drinking,
who's captured. We're going to find out what happens to Cersei, who's captured. We're going to find out what happens to Sansa, who has been trapped inside of this terrible thing.
Give me one.
Ramsey's.
That's all I want.
Ramsey's dead next episode.
Okay, they heard it from Victor Lucas here. Thank you for watching Game of Thrones Coffee Talk. We will see you next Monday, and I promise I'll wear more clothes.
No, don't. Oh,
that was scary, right? White Walker.
Vic's Basement would like to thank its sponsors, EB Games, Nintendo, Xbox, and Gameloft, makers of Dragon Mania Legends, which you can play for free right now.